In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the square. You should be familiar with quadratic theory already, in terms of you should know what a quadratic looks like, how many terms it has, and a quadratic has an x squared term. That's all you know, it's a quadratic. And if the a value here, these are called the coefficients of the quadratic, a is 1 here, b is 4, and c is 5. Then if a is 1, and this is the only ones we're going to be concentrating on just now, when a is 1. So when a is greater than 0, we should have, or you should know, that this gives you a smiley face, and you're going to have a minimum turning point. And a less than 0, we're going to have a sad face, and we'll have a maximum turning point. That's things that you should already know from your theory already. So how do we go about going from here to here? Well, the first important point is that a, b and c here is not the same a, b and c here. Okay, because we're going to change that, and these values for a, b and c will be different from the ones above. Sometimes you get ones that are the same. Now we're going to kind of concentrate on unity value. So the unity value is a is equal to 1. So the first thing we do is we half that value. So we're going to half the value of that, and we stick it in a squared bracket. There you go. And that's us just looking at this bit here, especially the 4. When we half that, we get the 2, and we're always going to have 1 here at the moment. Okay, we're doing the easier version for National 5. They do get a wee bit harder for higher. So we get that. So that gives us this part here, and you can see that we're a is 1 here. So this is what we've got. Now, how do we get a c at the end here? Well, it's not the case that it's just 5. As I told you, these things are different. So how do we know what value that should be? Well, what we do is we take this and we multiply it out using the grid method. So multiplying this out, just doing it very quickly, we get this. Okay, that's me multiplying x times x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 2 times x is 2x. Now, if you tidy this up, tidying these bits up here, because these are the same thing, collecting like terms, this is what we get here. Now, we were only concentrating on this bit, and we can see that we've got 4 too much. Now, it is the case that when you half that value, stick it in a bracket, square it, if you multiply it out, you will always get these first 2 terms, but we've got 4 too much. So we have to take that 4 away to compensate, so we have to take 4 away to compensate for it. So, if we take that 4 away to compensate for it, then we've got minus 4 here, and we've got plus 5. So this bit here now represents all of that, and this bit here is the 5 that we had, and that all simplifies to x plus 2 all squared. Minus 4 plus 5 is 1. So in this format here, if we just write it out a wee bit neater, a is 1, so we don't bother putting 1 in, x plus 2 squared plus 1. And now we can easily sketch that. So let's try and sketch it. Well, the first thing we do is we look at the standard quadratic, and this is the one you should know. This is what you start with at quadratic theory, a very basic one, which is y equals x squared. Well, inside the bracket, since that's plus 2, it moves this minimum turning point here, not to the way you maybe think, to the right. It doesn't go to the right, it goes to the left. So we move it that way, and this point here is now minus 2, 0. And the one does what you think it would do, moves it up 1. So our quadratic now looks something like that. So if we can draw it properly, it moves something like that. This is y-axis and this is x-axis. Okay, and that's the point minus 2, 1. We also usually find where it crosses the y-axis. So when it crosses the y-axis, well, that's when x is equal to 0. So this point here on the y-axis is 0 something. So put x equal to 0 into the original function, 0, 0, and that's going to be 5. It crosses at 0, 5. And that's you. That's you done completing the square. And that's the format there. And that helps us to draw it. Right, let's try another one. Got this one over here, and missed out an x here. Let's put the x in. And let's do it for this. So, first thing we do is we look at the first two terms, and we half the middle coefficient. So, minus 6, half of that is minus 3. So, we rewrite that as x minus 3 in a bracket, all squared. We then take the grid method. I've got x minus 3, and we multiply that out. And when we multiply that out, what do we get? We get x squared minus 3x plus 9. And if we tidy all that up, we get x squared minus 6 plus 9. So we've got 9 too much, because we're only considering this bit here, 9 too much. So to make this bit here the same as the first two terms, we have to take 9 away. And then we take away another 10, because 10 is already there. So this quadratic function here is exactly the same as this one. And then we tidy that up, and we get x minus 3 all squared minus 19. So we're just writing this out. Again, remember we're only doing unity ones here, so there is ones, so it's just a bracket. X minus 3 all squared minus 19. We can now sketch that, and that's the reason why we do completing the square. So let's try and sketch it. So for this one, well, we start with the standard graph, y equals x squared. This is y-axis, remember, and x-axis. Now the minus 3 tells us it moves it to the right. It moves to the right, so that's going to go to 3. This is your minimum turning point here. So, move it 3, and then we're going to go down to minus 19, so it's going to be way down here somewhere. No drawing to scale, obviously. And we just put in the smiley face, because we know it's A is 1, so it's a smiley face type. Very good at drawing these. There we go, something like that. And here's my minimum turning point, and that's 3 minus 19. Where does it cross the y-axis? Well, we'll go back to the original function right away to the beginning. X is equal to 0, so putting x equal to 0 in, that's going to give me 0, 0, minus 10. So 0 minus 10. Okay, and that's you being able to do completing the square. Now, I'm going to change the questions here to give you ones that are slightly harder, okay, that do come up, but they'll be on the harder side. They'll be worth more marks because we talk about negative x squared. So let's try and do a couple of them and see how we get on. Okay, I'm just going to make them up. So let's go with, I don't know, 8 minus 6x minus x squared. We'll pick another one. Let's go for 5 minus 10x minus x squared. Okay, now, as I say, these ones are slightly harder. First thing you can see, hopefully, the x squared coefficient here is minus 1, which means we're going to have a sad face. Okay, so first task here, since this is slightly harder, rewrite it into the usual quadratic form where the x squared is first. Then we're going to look at the first two terms, but this time we're going to take out a negative. We're going to factorise it, -1 outside. So I'm just taking the negative outside, so that gives me x squared. That gives me plus 6 x plus 8. Okay, so that's me just taking the negative out. So negative here comes out and becomes positive in the bracket. From here, it's just what we've been doing. So equals, we'll look at the second term and we half it, so that's going to be x plus 3. We square it, and we've got a plus 8 here. So we're getting there. Let's multiply out the bracket. We'll forget about the negative sign just now, we'll just multiply out the bracket. So here's my grid. And multiplying that out, we get x squared plus 3x, another 3x plus 9. Tidy all that up, we get x squared plus 6x, and it's a plus 9 too much. Now, got to be careful here. So this bit in the bracket, inside the bracket, we multiply it, we've got 9 too much. But there's a negative outside. So we don't really have 9 too much, we have minus 9 too much. So to compensate for the minus 9, we actually add on 9, okay? So it's x plus 3 all squared plus 9 plus another 8. I'll just go through that again. When we multiply out the squared bracket, we get x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now that's all within here, but there's a negative outside. So instead of having 9 too much and taking away 9, we have actually got minus 9 too much, and we have to add on 9. So that's a tricky wee bit you've got to be careful of. And we can now write it in the format of complete and square, just tidying it all up. So it's negative bracket x plus 3 squared, and 9 and 8 is 17. Okay, and remember why we're doing this. We're doing this so we can draw the graph. Okay, so we're going to draw the graph here and see what we get. So here's your standard graph. Remember y and x, that's your levels. So we've got a sad face this time. The minus tells us it's going to be a sad face. So your standard graph is going to be flipped in the x-axis. So it's going to look like that. And then the plus 3 in there is telling you it's going to move to the left. So it's going to be to minus 3 here. And it's going to go up to 17. Now just try to fit this in. We'll call it 17 here. So that's minus 3, 17. And we've got a sort of sad face. Alright. Now it's not really drawn to scale very well here. Okay. So something like that. But where does it cross? Where does it cross the y-axis? Well, x equal to 0, so put 0 in here and in here, and we're left with 8. So that's going to be 0, 8. And that's you. And it's that way because we've got a negative outside the bracket. Okay, we'll do one more. So we've got this one here. First thing we do is swap it into the right format, so we'll rearrange it to that. Excuse me. And then take out a common factor for the first two terms, which is -1. So that, and half the second term. I'll maybe not do that just now, actually. I'll just take out the negative just now, rather than going too quick. So that's me just taking the negative out. Now we can half the second term, so that's x plus 5 in the bracket, all squared plus 5. We now do the grid. X plus 5, x plus 5, x squared, 5x, another 5x, and 25. Tidying that up, or multiplying it out, you get, that is our answer. But we only have this bit, we're only considering the first two parts of it, so there's 25 too much here. So if there's 25 too much, and here we have to take it away, but there's a minus outside, so we're actually adding it on. We're actually adding on 25. And putting it in the format of completeness where we've got the minus x plus 5 squared plus 30. Okay, and again we can sketch it. So let's try and sketch it. Here's the basic. A bit label your axis. We've then got the negative outside tells us it's a sad face, so it gets flipped to the next axis, so it's actually going to be like that. Now, the plus 5 means it's going to the left again, so this is minus 5 here. And the 30 tells us it's going to move up 30 to about here. So that turning point's a maximum turning point of minus 530. And it's a sad face, so it's going to go something like, I'll try and get it right-ish, something like that. That was a strong point, as you can see. So what does it cross the y-axis? That's when x is equal to 0, so put x equal to 0 in here, and then here, that gives you 5, so it's 0, 5. Okay. That's us finished. Okay, I hope you understood that. You can obviously look at the video at any time. There's lessons and extra practice and that on mastervision.com if you need more practice. Also, this is a level that can come up at National 5 where it gets a wee bit harder at higher when A is not unity, i.e. 1 or minus 1. It can be maybe 2, 3 or 4 or something like that, and it's a wee bit harder, just an extra wee step in it. It tends to give you fractions and things like that higher, but we'll cover that if you manage to go into higher at some point. Okay.